Indirect WH question. We've been talking about yes/no question, indirect yes/no question. Now let's talk about indirect WH question. The following contains a complex sentence. Do you know what happens when one of your tail light fails? So if you look at this, what happens when one of your tail light fails? This is a complex sentence. The main clause is do you know? It has two subordinate clauses. What happens and when one of your tail lights fails, right? So the italicized string is an indirect WH question corresponding to the direct question. What happens when one of your tail lights fail, right? How do we form structures with indirect WH questions? That is the problem. Let us assume that we start from the basic sentence pattern. Assume that we have a sentence such as Mary wondered, what is John doing? Right? So this is a sentence, a direct sentence, reporting speech, Mary wondered. And what is John doing? It's a indirect question, but in reported speech, it's a direct question in reporting speech. So let's see that how do we make it an indirect WH question. So the string with quotation mark is an example of direct speech or thought. We report Mary's thought or words directly. So however, we may also decide to report them indirectly by means of an embedded sentence. Mary wondered what John was doing. So what John was doing is a WH question. Now it has become an indirect question. Underlying the example, we assume the basic pattern. Mary wondered, that is the main clause, and then we have S bar complementizer, and John and was doing and what, right? So we have a place for empty place for complementizers, and we have what, that is after the verb, which is actually the direct object of the verb doing, right? So as you see, the complementizer slot is left unfilled. The WH phrase which we find inside the subordinate clause is moved out of S into complementizer. So our sentence in 80 becomes Mary wondered what John was doing, and you can see the slot lying vacant. So you see WH movement leaves behind a gap, a slot bound by the moved element in complementizers. So with direct question, as we have seen, WH movement is followed by SAI, but with indirect there is no SAI. There is no SAI in embedded WH questions. We have seen now that WH movement and SAI may be used together to form WH question by SAI, and WH movement can also occur independently. They are elementary operations which are not necessarily linked. For example, SAI occurs in its own. Yes/no question, did you measure it? Right? So you can see that it has a SAI phenomena or movement in it. Declarative sentence with fronted negative adjuncts. Never had he felt so happy. So in such, we have already talked about no sooner dead, etc. These sentences do have SAI movement in it. So WH movement occurs without SAI in indirect question. She wondered what he was doing. What was he doing is not correct here. And a lot of time writing, when we are writing, we must take care that in indirect, the order must not be of SAI. So exclamation, in exclamation, what fools they have been, right? So here we don't have any what have they been or etc. We don't have SAI in exclamatory what. WH movement nor SAI is necessarily linked with question formation. SAI occurs with fronted negative adjuncts in declarative sentence, never, soon, no sooner, etc. WH movement occurs with exclamation, as we have just seen. So when you are making question, indirect WH question, make sure that they do not take auxiliary before the subject.